Far out beyond the last warm window of any house, beyond the orbit of the farthest comet, the cold is already winning, and it is winning so slowly that it feels like rest. Imagine a single ember at the bottom of a vast dark hearth, its red light fading by the smallest degree. And now imagine that hearth is everything there is. There is a galaxy out there whose every fire will one day gutter low, a final thread of starlight that will travel for longer than the universe has so far existed, a temperature drifting so close to absolute stillness that it can barely be called a temperature at all. What is it like for a whole cosmos to grow quiet? You can wander toward that question tonight without the smallest trace of fear, because the ending it describes is the gentlest one imaginable. Not a crash, not a fire, not a tearing of anything, but a long, even cooling into perfect calm. It is the soft fate of all the stars, and you are allowed to drift out and meet it now, the way you might step outside on a still night just to feel how quiet the dark can be. You do not need to hold any of this. You do not need to carry away a single number or name. Let your mind go soft at the edges, the way the horizon goes soft at dusk, and let these ideas cross it like slow clouds with nowhere they need to be. What stays with you will stay on its own, without your effort. What slips away was never yours to keep, and losing it cost you nothing. There is no problem here to solve and no task here to finish. The whole point of this faraway future is that there is no hurry left anywhere in it, none at all, and you are welcome to borrow that stillness this very moment, to let it pool in your shoulders and your hands and the slow space behind your eyes, settling over you like a blanket drawn up in the dark by someone who loves you. So let the room around you dim and widen. The ceiling thins into starlight, the walls fade into open distance, and the floor falls away beneath you, until you are resting in deep space, warm and weightless, held by nothing and needing nothing at all. From here you can look out across the long reach of time the way you might look across a field at midnight, and the very first thing you notice is simply how much of it there is. The universe is roughly 14 billion years old, which can feel almost endless when you say it slowly, and yet against the future still to come, it is barely the first breath of an enormous night that runs on for 100 trillion years and longer. The stars are not in their twilight, they are in their early morning. Everything you have ever called ancient is, on the true scale of things, freshly and tenderly new. That long road ahead has a name. The most likely far future of the cosmos is called its heat death, though almost nothing about it is hot. The phrase comes from an old way of speaking, when heat meant energy in motion, and what it truly describes is a slow spreading out, a universe where warmth no longer gathers itself into stars and worlds, but smooths itself into one even lukewarm hush. Picture a cup of tea left forgotten on a windowsill, its curl of steam thinning and vanishing, until the tea is exactly as cool as the room around it. Nothing in that cup was destroyed. The warmth simply shared itself out, evenly and completely, until there was no difference left anywhere to feel. The whole cosmos, on the grandest scale there is a cup of tea cooling toward the temperature of its own wide and darkened room. Behind that image stands a single law, and you can let it hold you the way it holds all things. It is called the second law of thermodynamics, and in its simplest spirit it says only this, that disorder, left to itself, tends to grow. Heat flows from the warm toward the cool, and almost never the other way without help. A drop of ink let fall into clear water unfurls and spreads, and never gathers itself back into a drop. This is not a flaw woven into the world, and it is not a sadness hidden inside it. It is simply the direction that time prefers to walk, the very reason yesterday feels so different from tomorrow, and it is this same rule that is, across billions upon billions of years, carrying the entire universe toward its final stillness. Knowing the law that guides everything is a little like knowing the current of a wide river. There is nothing to fight, only something to float upon. The measure of all that's spreading out has a name too, and it is almost a lullaby of a word: entropy. Entropy is, loosely, a count of how many ways the pieces of a thing could be arranged while still appearing the same from the outside. A tidy room has low entropy, because there are only a handful of ways for everything to rest in its one exact and proper place. A scattered room has high entropy, because there are countless ways for things to lie strewn about in disarray. The whole universe, taken all together, has been growing more scattered since its very first instant, and the heat death is simply the far end of that long scattering. The moment when the cosmos has explored very nearly every arrangement it possibly can, and so it settles at last with a kind of sigh into a deep and even rest. Now drift a little closer to the stars themselves, those bright anchors of every night sky you have ever looked up into, and notice that even they are spending something they can never earn back. Every star is a furnace, fusing the lightest atoms into heavier ones deep within its core and pouring out warmth and light as it goes. But the fuel inside each star is finite, a candle of a fixed and certain length. Our own sun, that golden coin in the daytime sky that has warmed every morning of your whole life, has perhaps another 5 billion years of comfortable burning still ahead of it, and then it will swell and let go of its outer layers in one long glowing sigh of gas. The warmth you have always trusted is not eternal but borrowed, a bright flame that was lit once near the dawn of the world and will one day, across billions of years, burn down to a cooling ember. When the sun at last lets go of its outer layers, what it leaves behind is one of the most peaceful sights in all the heavens. Its bare core will linger on as a white dwarf, a dense cinder about the size of the Earth, yet holding more than half the mass of the sun, so heavy that a single sugar cube of it would weigh as much as a car, glowing with leftover heat. No new fire burns within it. It simply shines on the warmth it has saved, like a stone pulled from a hearth that stays warm long after the flames have gone. Across billions of years it will cool and dim, its colour sliding from white through gold to a deep red. Nearly every star you can see tonight is bound for this same fate. Not a violent end, but a cooling that takes 10 billion years and more. A fading ember set down carefully in the dark. Those small white embers carry a secret that is strangely beautiful to picture. Deep inside a cooling white dwarf, under a pressure millions of times greater than the air at sea level, the carbon and oxygen left over from the star's long life arrange themselves into a vast ordered lattice, a crystal. In a sense, the dying core turns to something very much like a single colossal jewel, a diamond the size of a small planet, formed by cooling alone. It takes far longer than the present age of the cosmos for one to harden all the way through, and astronomers have already found a nearby white dwarf whose core is thought to have crystallized in just this way, a heart of carbon some 4,000 kilometers across, set down in the constellation we call the Water Bearer. The very same surrender of heat that carries the cosmos toward its calm is, here, growing one of the largest and most ordered crystals there could ever be, deep in the silent dark. Not every star ends as gently as a fading ember, and even the brighter farewells are worth a moment's wonder. A star much heavier than the sun cannot soften so easily. When its fuel finally fails, its core collapses in less than a second, and its outer layers are cast off in a single brilliant flowering of light, a supernova, so luminous that for a few weeks it can outshine its entire galaxy of 100 billion stars combined. Yet even this great brightness is, on the scale of the cosmos, a candle lit and then set down. The light spreads outward, the glowing shell expands and thins, and what remains settles into stillness once more. These rare bright endings are also great beginnings, for it is in their heat that many of the heavier elements are forged and scattered. The iron at the core of a planet, the copper and the calcium, the oxygen you will breathe tonight, all cooked deep in a great star and flung outward across light years of space in its final hours. A single such explosion can seed a whole region of the galaxy with the raw material of new worlds, and the light from one of them can take so long to cross the gulf to us that the star has been gone for thousands of years before its final flare ever reaches a human eye. They are the seeds, carried outward across light years of future worlds and future life. Where the very heaviest stars collapse, they leave behind something stranger still. A neutron star is the crushed core of a great star, an object so dense that the mass of the Sun is squeezed into a sphere only about a dozen miles across, the width of a single city. A single spoonful of its material would weigh as much as a mountain range, perhaps 1 billion tons, and its pull is so strong that a pebble dropped from an inch above its surface would strike the ground at the speed of a rifle bullet. And yet, for all that staggering weight, a neutron star is in its way perfectly serene, a near-flawless sphere whose entire landscape, sculpted flat by gravity, may rise no higher than a few millimeters, spinning in the dark, sometimes turning hundreds of times each second, sweeping a faint beam of light across the void like the steady turn of a lighthouse no one built. The fastest of them keep a rhythm so exact that they rival the finest atomic clocks on Earth, flashing on and on with a faithfulness no machine of ours can match. Even the most extreme objects the universe makes settle, in the end, into a kind of even, rhythmic stillness. Yet the great age of starlight does not end with a single sun. All across the cosmos, in cold and dusty clouds, new stars are still igniting even now, and they will go on igniting for a very long while yet. But the raw gas that feeds them is being spent faster than it is replenished, and so the rate of new star birth slipped past its peak some 10 billion years ago, and is now declining. The bright era of young stars, astronomers estimate, will carry on for something close to 100 trillion years before the last of the usable gas is finally spent. 100 trillion years. The number is so enormous that it stops feeling at all like a warning and begins instead to feel like a reassurance, a promise about just how much time there truly is, stretching ahead, in which nothing whatsoever needs to be hurried. This long luminous stretch even has a name, and astronomers say it with a kind of fondness. They call it the Stelliferous Era, simply the age of stars, the chapter of cosmic history in which the heavens are full of light, and you are living near its bright beginning. It opened a few 100 million years after the universe was born, when the first stars kindled in the dark, and it will run on for trillions upon trillions of years before the last of them dims. Of all the long ages the cosmos will know, this is the one with light enough to read by, with warmth enough for worlds, with suns enough to fill a sky. It is the brightest room in the whole house of time, and you are given a place in it. When the gas at last runs thin and no fresh suns are born, the very smallest stars will inherit the dark, and they are the longest burning lights of all the heavens. The tiniest red dwarf stars, some no larger across than the planet Jupiter, burn so faintly, sipping at their fuel so sparingly, that a single one of them can keep glowing for 10 trillion years and more, 1,000 times the present age of the universe, far longer than every brighter sun that ever lived. Picture a candle that has somehow learned to burn on almost nothing at all, a dim and rose-coloured flame that outlasts whole ages of fiercer stars. These embers will be the final fires in the long evening of the cosmos, glowing faint and warm-hued in a steadily emptying sky, while the universe turns its many lamps down low, one by one. Part of what makes those small red stars so enduring is a kind of thrift hidden deep in their nature. A red dwarf stirs itself all the way through, mixing its fuel rather than burning only at the centre, so it can use nearly every last bit of what it holds before it finally dims. The sun, by contrast, will spend only the fuel in its core and let go while much remains. The small star wastes nothing, hurries nothing, it simply glows on at its own pace. The faintest lights, it turns out, are the ones that last the longest, and the most modest fires are the ones that outlast all the rest. And as those last small flames fade, the great night between the galaxies will deepen in a way that is strangely peaceful to picture from here. The sky will not go dark all at once with any sudden snuffing. It will dim the way a vast hall dims at the close of a long evening, lamp after distant lamp easing into shadow, until the brilliant scatter of stars you know so well has thinned first to a faint reddish glow, and then to scattered embers, and then to a darkness so smooth and so complete that it begins to feel, against all expectation, not empty but deeply restful. The dark of a great house where everyone within has finally gone to sleep. Turn your gaze now toward the galaxies themselves, those enormous pinwheels of 100 billion suns apiece. They are not truly still, though across any single human night they seem fixed in place forever. They are drifting apart, every one of them, carried outward by the expansion of space itself, and that drifting only grows with time. Far enough into the future, the galaxies beyond our own small neighbourhood will recede so swiftly, swept along by the relentless stretching of the cosmos, that their light will no longer be able to reach across the widening gulf to us at all. The sky will empty of its distant company, until each surviving island of stars floats entirely alone in a dark so wide it has no other shore. Every last light is granted at the very end a spacious room of its own. Our own corner of the cosmos, though, will not be left entirely alone. The Milky Way, the galaxy that holds your sun and you, is leaning toward the great spiral of Andromeda across 2.5 million light-years of dark, closing the gap at some 70 miles every second, and in roughly 4 billion years the two will meet and gradually merge, their bright arms winding together over hundreds of millions of years into one vast new galaxy. It will not be a collision in any violent or fearful sense. The stars within each are spread so impossibly far apart that almost none will ever so much as touch. It will be far more like two great flocks of birds passing through one another, or two clouds of light folding into one, a graceful joining that leaves the future a single grand galaxy to keep it company in the deepening dark. Around that future galaxy, and around our own today, there gathers a small family of companions. The Milky Way and Andromeda do not travel entirely alone. They move together with dozens of smaller galaxies in a loose cluster astronomers call the local group, all of them bound to one another by gravity. As the rest of the universe streams away into the accelerating distance, this little gathering will stay together, its members merging over the ages into a single great island of stars. While the wider cosmos empties and grows lonely, this one small neighbourhood will remain, a warm and lasting company in the long dark, like a handful of houses whose lights stay on when all the far city has gone to sleep. Within that merged galaxy, even the planets will, in time, loosen their long orbits. Worlds circle their stars held close by gravity, but across truly vast stretches of time, the faint repeated nudge of passing stars and the trickle of gravitational energy will, little by little, unbind them. Planets will come loose from their suns over timescales so long they make 1 trillion years seem like an afternoon, wandering off into the dark as cold and lonely travellers. It sounds solitary, and yet nothing is broken in this loosening, nothing is wounded or torn. The worlds simply slip their old moorings, the way a small boat might ease away from a dock on a windless night, no one watching, and float out onto a still, dark, endless sea. There are such wandering worlds already adrift in the dark, and to picture them is to feel a strange and tender calm. Astronomers have found planets that belong to no star at all, rogue worlds, drifting freely through the spaces between the suns, untethered and silent, their surfaces darker than any midnight and colder than the deepest winter the Earth has ever known. There may be billions upon billions of them in our galaxy alone, dark spheres gliding through the night at thousands of miles an hour with no sunrise ever to warm them. And yet nothing in their motion is troubled. They are simply at rest in a different way, carried along by nothing but their own steady drift, at home in the dark, needing no sunrise to be exactly what they are. In the far future, every world that remains will become a traveller like these, set loose to wander the calm. Let your body grow a little heavier with that thought, sinking deeper into its warmth, and turn now toward gravity's grandest and most fearsome architects, for even they keep a long appointment with the calm. Black holes, those deep wells in the very fabric of space where even light leans inward and cannot climb back out, are not, in the end, forever. They glow, almost imperceptibly, with a faint warmth that physicists describe as a leaking radiance, and across truly unimaginable ages they give themselves away to the dark, the tiniest piece at a time, until at last they too are entirely gone. The very objects that seem most permanent, most absolute, most utterly final of all, are themselves evaporating into the even hush of the deep future. Proof that in this cosmos nothing at all needs to hold on forever, not even the things that hold the very hardest. The way a black hole glows is one of the strangest ideas in all of physics, and it rewards a long pause. Near the very edge of a black hole, the empty dark is not quite empty. It shimmers faintly with the restless flicker that fills all of space, and now and then a trace of that flicker escapes outward as the faintest possible warmth. Physicists call it Hawking radiation, and the larger the black hole, the colder its glow, so that the greatest of them are the coldest objects the universe contains, less than a millionth of a degree above absolute zero. They do not roar or rage as they fade. They simply breathe out, across spans of time beyond all counting, a warmth so faint it is nearly silence, until there is nothing left of them at all but the calm. There is a curious and soothing thing about how slowly black holes will fade, and how very long they will last. A black hole formed from a single dead star is estimated to take something on the order of 10,000 trillion years to evaporate entirely, a one followed by roughly 64 zeros. The most massive ones, the giants that sit at the hearts of galaxies, are colder still. Their full evaporation may stretch across an age so long it must be drawn as the digit one trailed by 100 zeros, a number so enormous it has its own name, a Google of years. Every one of these spans is an estimate, a careful reading out of the law to its farthest conclusion. The largest black holes will be the last great structures left in the cosmos, lingering long after the final star has died, giving themselves back to the dark one particle at a time. Far in that future, long after the last star has gone out, there comes a stretch of cosmic history that belongs to the black holes almost alone. By then every white dwarf will have cooled to dark, and across the emptying universe nearly the only things left that still change at all will be the black holes themselves, breathing out their faint hawking glow into a sky with nothing else in it. It is the longest lit stretch of all, a vast, ageless span lit only by the dimmest radiance there is. To picture one of those black giants, dim and almost frozen, outlasting whole eternities, is to feel time stretch so far that haste becomes a forgotten word. So you can let your own grip loosen now, here in the dark, and feel how the whole wide universe is doing precisely the same thing. Everything that gathers will, in the long fullness of time, let go. The stars release their light into the void, the galaxies release their hold on one another, the planets release their suns, and even the black holes in the end release the very last of what they hold. None of it is a struggle, none of it is a loss in any way that hurts. It is the most natural motion there has ever been, the long exhale of a cosmos that spent its whole bright life breathing in, and is now, across spans beyond counting, breathing out. And you, resting here in your own warmth, are a part of that same enormous breath, allowed to release the weight of your entire day exactly as the stars release their ancient fire, without effort, without sorrow, without the slightest need to keep your hold on anything. Stay with that feeling of release as the scale grows larger still, and consider how the very fabric of space is stretching beneath all of it. For most of the last century, astronomers fully expected the expansion of the universe to be slowing, tugged backward by the combined gravity of all its many galaxies. Then, very near the turn of the millennium, they discovered the opposite. The expansion is not slowing at all but speeding up, steadily accelerating, pushed outward by something invisible woven through the emptiness itself. They named that unseen something dark energy, which is far more a label for a deep mystery than a true description of it, and it appears to make up some 70% of everything that exists. The deepest engine of the universe's whole future is something we can measure and yet not yet fully understand. a reminder that even the grandest minds are allowed in the end to rest peacefully in the great open space of not knowing. That unseen energy is also the reason the long calm to come will be so very even and smooth. Because space itself keeps stretching faster and faster, the matter scattered within it grows ever more thinly spread, like a single drop of cream stirred forever into a boundless ocean of dark coffee, until not one swirl or thread of it remains visible anywhere. There are no edges in this future, no walls, no crowding, no corners where anything piles up. There is only a vast, ever-cooling emptiness in which every particle moves further and further from every other, until even the simple word place begins to lose its meaning. It is the universe smoothing out its own great bedsheets across all of time, pulling out every last wrinkle and fold, preparing the most even rest imaginable for itself. The cosmos is already overwhelmingly empty, even now in this its crowded morning. Space looks full when you gaze up at a sky brimming with stars, yet the truth is that the great distances between the stars and between the galaxies are so vast that, on average, the cosmos is emptier than the finest vacuum any laboratory on Earth has ever made. If you could shrink the whole solar system to the size of a coin, the nearest other star would still be 1.5 miles away across an empty floor. The future does not add this emptiness. It only deepens what was always there. The calm of the far cosmos is simply the wide background that has held everything all along. Let your breath slow now to match that long smoothing, in and out. In the careful language of physics, the heat death is not truly a state of nothing happening at all. It is a condition called equilibrium, the deep balance a thing reaches when every part of it sits in perfect agreement with every other part, and there is no longer any difference left anywhere to drive a single change. A warm bath that has gone tepid has reached equilibrium with the cool air around it. A swinging pendulum finally hanging straight, and still, has reached equilibrium with the steady pull of gravity. The universe in its far future is simply the largest possible version of that one settled stillness. Everything everywhere in agreement, nothing leaning in any direction, no part pulling harder than another, the entire cosmos resting at perfect, motionless peace with its own wide self. Yet even in that deepest equilibrium, the future does not grow coldest at the very last instant. Because the universe goes on expanding, its faint background warmth, the afterglow left over from its own fiery birth, still bathing all of space, keeps thinning and cooling as the room of the cosmos grows. Today that ancient glow rests at just under 3 degrees above the very lowest temperature there can be. In the long future it will sink lower still, falling toward that absolute floor without ever quite arriving at it, approaching perfect cold the way a single falling leaf approaches the waiting ground, forever nearing its rest. The cosmos does not slam any door shut at its ending. It eases itself down, like a long-held musical note fading so gradually that you could never name the exact instant it became silence. That lowest possible temperature has a name well worth resting upon. It is called absolute zero, minus 273 degrees on the Celsius scale, the point at which the restless jiggling and trembling of every atom would slow at last to its faintest conceivable whisper, the stillest state that the laws of nature anywhere allow. Nothing in the entire cosmos has ever quite reached it, and nothing ever truly will. And yet the far future leans toward it always, the way a long warm day leans into its evening. To picture the whole universe falling endlessly toward absolute zero is to picture the most gradual fade there could ever be. Not a hard wall of ice rising up, but a warm feeling release into a stillness so complete that even the smallest atoms have finally laid themselves down to rest. It is a tender thought that the coldest places in all of nature are not, in fact, the work of any far and frozen future. The very coldest spot known anywhere in the cosmos has been made here, in laboratories on the warm Earth, where careful people have coaxed small clouds of atoms to within a few billionths of a degree of absolute zero, colder, by far, than the 3-degree chill of empty space. The stillest cold there is was reached not by death or distance, but by patience and care, by minds wishing simply to see how still matter can become. The same calm the universe drifts toward across all of time can be touched, for a fleeting moment, by attention alone. Notice now how heavy your own body has grown, sinking a little further into the dark with each breath, and let the long story carry you back toward the early universe, where this whole journey of light first began. In the very first moments after the cosmos was born, there were no stars at all, and no galaxies, and no worlds, only a dense blazing fog of pure energy and the very simplest particles, so impossibly hot and so tightly crowded together that even light itself could not yet travel freely through it. For nearly 400,000 years, the entire universe shone like the glowing inside of a sunrise, a single seamless veil of brightness, with no dark anywhere and no shadow at all. Then, as it cooled and thinned, that great fog cleared all at once, and light streamed freely out for the very first time in all of existence. That first release of light is still arriving even today, grown faint and cold across the ages, the oldest glow there is, a reminder that everything bright you have ever seen in the night sky once began as a single, universe-wide clearing of the air. That ancient first light has been travelling outward ever since, and what it has become is one of the very tenderest facts in all of astronomy. Stretched and cooled across billions of years by the expansion of space, that primeval glow now bathes the entire sky in a faint whisper of microwaves, and even warmth arriving from every direction at once, from all around you, all the time. It is called the cosmic microwave background, and it is, quite literally, the afterglow of creation itself, the very same light that once filled the newborn cosmos, now grown so dim and so cold that it takes the most delicate of instruments even to feel its presence. You are at every single moment of your life bathed in the oldest light there is, a radiance left over from the universe's first morning, keeping the great dark company through all the long ages, and keeping you company too here tonight. There is a small and homely everyday echo of that ancient glow. Before televisions learned to tune themselves so cleanly, a tiny fraction of the grey static fuzz that flickered and hissed across an untuned screen came from that very same primeval light. The cosmic microwave background arriving from the dawn of all time. About 1 part in 100 of that restless snow was the genuine afterglow of the early universe, falling unnoticed into ordinary living rooms, mistaken for mere noise. The oldest light in all of existence was always there, woven into the hum of an ordinary evening, simply present, exactly the way the deep and ancient cosmos is present in the very room around you now. That faint background glow is also, in its way, the steadiest clock the universe owns. As space expands, the ancient light stretches with it, cooling ever so slightly with each passing age, and so its temperature is a faithful measure of how far along the long day of the cosmos has come. Today it sits at 2.7 degrees above absolute zero, about minus 270 on the Celsius scale. The same faint warmth in every direction you could ever turn to look. Far in the future it will read a fraction of that, then a fraction of a fraction, sinking endlessly lower. Nothing about this clock ticks or chimes or hurries. It only cools, on and on, marking the long hours of eternity not with alarm but with an ever-deepening chill that no one needs to watch. And as that ancient glow cools, it also lengthens, its waves stretched out by the swelling of space until they grow longer and longer with the ages. The light that once blazed white-hot at the dawn of everything had, by the time it reached us, been drawn out into faint microwaves no eye can see, about 1 millimetre from crest to crest. Far into the future it will be stretched further still, into radio waves measured first in inches, then in feet, then in miles, until a single ripple of that first light is wider than a world, and then wider than a whole solar system, and then wider than the empty distance that lies between one star and the next. The oldest light there grows not brighter, but ever longer. its once fierce energy easing outward into waves so drawn out that, like a held note pulled lower and lower, it passes at last below all hearing. Drift now toward the great question hidden inside this whole long calm. Why was the universe ever orderly enough to run down at all? For warmth to spread out across the ages, it must first have been gathered together. For entropy to rise over all of time, it must have begun astonishingly, improbably low. And so it did. The early universe was, by the strange and demanding standards of physics, exquisitely smooth and ordered, a near-perfect calm from which every bit of structure you have ever known could unfold. Everything interesting that has ever happened anywhere, every star that lit, every storm that turned, every heartbeat that ever beat, has been, at its root, the universe spending down that original, almost impossible tidiness. You are, in a very real way, a small bright ripple in the long unwinding of a cosmos that somehow began impossibly, beautifully serene. Because that long unwinding gives time its very direction, it is sometimes given a beautiful name. Physicists speak of the arrow of time, the underlying reason the past and the future feel so utterly different from one another, the reason you can clearly remember yesterday yet only dimly imagine tomorrow. That arrow points, they believe, in the single direction of growing entropy, toward the spreading out, toward the smoothing, toward the calm. Time flows the way it does, always forward and never back, precisely because the universe is ceaselessly settling. And so to rest, tonight, is not in any way to fight against the deep current of the cosmos. It is simply to drift along with it, easing in the very same direction that absolutely everything is already, always, going. That arrow lets you picture the entire sweep of cosmic history as one long descent. Imagine a single boundless hillside under a wide sky, and at the very top of it a perfectly smooth field of new-fallen snow, the early universe, calm and bright and untouched. Everything that follows is simply that snow settling, drifting, melting, finding its own level, stars forming and fading, galaxies gathering and parting, all of it the great slide from the high ordered dawn down toward the low, even dusk. There is nothing frightening anywhere on that hillside, nothing waiting to startle you, no cliff, no edge, no sudden drop, only mile after mile of white falling away ahead of you under the stars. It is the longest and the most even slope there has ever been, and you yourself are coasting down it even now, growing easier with every single breath you take. A deep and pleasant stillness is arriving in your limbs now, a warm and welcome heaviness, as though your body has begun to learn the patience of the stars themselves. Turn your attention toward one of the strangest and most generous gifts the cosmos ever gave itself. The heavier elements, the very ones that make up so much of the world you know and love, were forged inside the depths of stars. The iron carried in your blood, the calcium woven through your bones, the trace of gold in a ring on someone's hand, each one of those atoms was cooked deep within a star at temperatures of millions of degrees, or flung out across space when one of them at last let go in its final glowing sigh. You are, quite literally, and not as any poem made of stardust, of matter that fell, long ago, from the fading of distant suns. The same great unwinding that carries the universe ever toward its calm is the very process that gathered, scattered, and seeded the precise stuff that, in time, became you. That single thought folds back upon itself in the loveliest of ways. The running down of the whole cosmos is not only an ending, and it never was. It has been, all along, a profound kind of making. As the stars spent their fuel and released their glowing ashes into the dark, those very ashes gathered and became planets, and oceans, and the first stirrings of living things. The deep tendency of warmth to spread itself out, the same drift that leads, in the end, toward the final calm, is the exact same tendency that allowed complexity and life and you to appear at all along the way. The wide river that flows towards stillness is the very same river that, simply in its long passing carved out every green valley of life there ever was. There is truly no need to mourn a cosmos that runs down, when that very running down is the one thing that ever made there be anyone here at all to wonder about it. The energy that lit your own life follows the same path as everything else. The sunlight that grew the food that became your body once arrived as concentrated, ordered light from the sun, 8 minutes out from its blazing surface, and your body used it and spent it and let it go again as warmth into the air around you. You are, in this way, a small place where the universe's great spreading out pauses for a moment to become a heartbeat, a thought, a breath, before passing onward into the dark. Every living thing is such a pause, a brief and lovely eddy in the long downhill flow, a place where the river slows just enough to swirl into something that can wonder at the river. And then it flows on. Feel how much wider the whole world has become as you have drifted through it tonight. The observable universe, the part of it whose light has had enough time to reach your eyes, is about 93 billion light-years across, a span so unthinkably vast that light itself, the very fastest thing there is in all of creation, needs many tens of billions of years simply to cross it. And far beyond even that bright and distant horizon, the cosmos almost certainly continues onward, perhaps without any edge or boundary at all, perhaps forever. The stillness toward which everything drifts is not, then, a small or cramped or closed-in thing. It is the calm of something very nearly boundless, large enough to hold within it every star that has ever shone, with easy room to spare. To rest inside a thought as wide as that is to feel your own small worries grow lighter, loosen their hold and gratefully let go. So many stars share this great morning with you. In our own galaxy alone there are something like 100 billion suns, and there are at least as many galaxies scattered through the visible cosmos, so many that the number of stars you could see, if you could see them all, runs to perhaps 1 billion trillion, outrunning the count of every grain of sand on every beach and in every desert on the whole of the earth. And every one of those countless suns is on the same long journey, burning its fuel, warming whatever turns around it, drifting toward its own rest. You are one small watcher beneath one ordinary star, among a sea of fires too vast to number, all of them keeping you company in the dark, all of them bound, like you, for the same calm. The very deepest cosmic clocks run so far past ordinary numbers that they simply fail beneath them, and physicists must instead write them as great towers of zeros, ages so long that if you ever tried to count out their seconds one by one, the counting itself would outlast every star in the sky. Within such enormous spans, even the steadiest and most enduring things become mere fleeting events. The whole long life of a red dwarf star, 10 trillion years of faithful glowing, is, on this scale, no more than an early chapter, barely begun. There is so very much time lying ahead that haste of any kind, anywhere, loses all its meaning. And if the great cosmos itself holds all of that time within it, then surely you can spare these few hours of your one night to do nothing at all but rest. After the last stars fade, the universe enters a chapter astronomers call the Degenerate Era, and despite its name, it is a deeply peaceful time. The bright fires are gone. What remains are the leftovers, cold white dwarfs, dim neutron stars, drifting dead worlds, all of them cooling in a vast and darkening sky. There is no more starbirth, no more sudden light, only the long fading of what the age of stars left behind. It is the cosmos in its long evening, the dishes cleared and the lamps turned low, everything that once blazed now resting and cooling in the dark. This chapter alone will last far longer than the entire bright age of stars that came before it, an evening immeasurably longer than the day. After that long evening fades, the universe enters the chapter astronomers call the Black Hole Era, and it is calmer still. The cold cinders are gone or scattered now, and across an almost perfectly empty cosmos the black holes alone remain, the last great structures left, each one breathing out its faint hawking glow, across spans of time no clock could ever hold. They give themselves back to the dark so gradually that a single one may take far longer to fade than the whole bright age of stars and the whole long degenerate evening combined. It is an age lit by nothing but the dimmest possible warmth, a few last embers set impossibly far apart in an endless room, and nothing in it is lonely, only a universe with almost nothing left to do but rest. That vastness of time carries a tender flip side too, because the calm future is so unimaginably long. The bright and busy era of shining stars, the very age you happen to be living in right now, is astonishingly rare and brief by any comparison. You exist within the narrow luminous morning of the universe, the slender stretch when stars still burn and worlds still turn, and there is light enough everywhere to see by. Of all the countless spans of cosmic time stretching out before and behind, you are somehow given one of the very few that glows. This very ordinary night, with its small lamps and its distant stars, is itself a rare miracle of timing, and you are here for it. Even the smallest pieces of matter may, across spans beyond imagining, join the universe's long letting go. Some physicists wonder whether the proton, one of the tiny sturdy building blocks at the heart of every atom, might be ever so slightly unstable, fading away after a stretch of time so enormous that it dwarfs even the lives of the dying stars, perhaps 10,000 trillion years and more. No one has ever seen it happen. The proton is so steady that, if it does decay, its lifetime is longer than anything the universe has yet experienced by an almost unthinkable margin. But if it is true, then in the deepest future even ordinary matter will dissolve, the cold cinders of dead stars evaporating into faint light until the cosmos grows simpler and stiller than ever. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. Even the atoms in the end are allowed to rest. And should the proton hold firm and never decay at all, the deep future keeps an even stranger marvel in store. Iron, it turns out, is the most contented element there is. Its nucleus sits at the very bottom of a long-energy valley, the one arrangement of matter that neither wishes to break apart nor to fuse any further. Across spans of time so vast they make a Google of years look brief, the laws of the very small allow even solid rock and cold metal to creep, atom by atom, toward that one settled form, every heavier element shedding a little of itself and every lighter one knitting together, until whole dead stars have turned, over the ages, entirely to iron. Astronomers have given these theoretical objects a name: iron stars, spheres of perfect finished metal, the last cold sculptures the cosmos will ever carve, glinting in a sky with nothing left to light them. And even those iron stars are not quite the end of the story, for the same unthinkable stretches of time would let them, one by one, settle at last into the deepest rest of all. Some would draw inward under their own weight and slip behind the dark horizon of a black hole. Others, if matter is somehow kinder than that, might simply hold their shape forever in the cold. Either way, no fire is left in it and nothing to fear, only the final tidying away of the very last solid things, the cosmos folding even its iron keepsakes into the smooth and even dark, so that nothing sharp or heavy is left anywhere to trouble the great calm. There is a subtler truth about how all of this distant future was ever even discovered. No living person has ever once seen the heat death. It lies unimaginably far beyond any life, any world, any star that now shines. It is known instead only through the stacking of physical law upon physical law, the very same equations that faithfully describe a cooling cup of tea or the spreading of a single drop of ink through water, simply followed honestly all the way out to their farthest possible conclusion. The entire future of the whole cosmos can be glimpsed from a still desk in a lamplit room, with nothing more than paper and patience and careful thought. The universe, it turns out, keeps no secrets so far away that a sharpened pencil cannot in time reach them, and the very people who first read those great secrets did so in a spirit of pure wonder. More than a century and a half ago, as a handful of scientists puzzled over heat and steam and the curious flow of energy through engines, a few of them came to realize that the very same laws governing a humble steam engine must also, inescapably, govern the stars themselves, and that the whole cosmos, faithfully obeying those laws, must therefore be running down. They did not greet this enormous realization with any dread. They greeted it instead with awe, with the breathless thrill of seeing further into the depths of time than anyone had ever seen before, and that very same awe is fully available to you now, lying perfectly still in the dark, holding within your mind the entire long fate of everything there is, asking nothing whatsoever of it, only resting there and marvelling. It was a thoughtful scientist in those same distant days of steam and study who first gave the idea of entropy its name, drawing it from an old Greek word for transformation, for turning. He saw that in every change, in every flame and every falling thing, a little of the world's order slips into disorder, never quite to return, and he stated it as plainly as a law can be stated. The energy of the cosmos holds steady, while its entropy tends ever toward the greatest. Nothing is lost. The great sum of energy never changes. It only spreads and shares itself out, forever moving toward the even, a transformation, not a loss, written into the very grammar of the world. The far future offers up the very vastest of all numbers, far too large to fear. To say that the stars will fade in 100 trillion years, or that the last lingering black holes may go on glowing faintly across an age of a Google years, a one with 100 zeros after it, is to speak of stretches of time so enormous that the words themselves slide harmlessly off the tired mind, leaving behind only a spreading sense of immense, untroubled calm. These are not deadlines waiting for you anywhere. They are reassurances. They are the universe promising over and over that whatever ending might one day exist is so very far away, so unreachably distant, that for you, tonight, in this warm dark, it is no nearer at all than a dream of a dream of a dream. Notice how your breathing has found its own even tide by now, rising and falling all on its own without the slightest effort from you. Physicists sometimes describe the final state of the cosmos as one of maximum entropy, the long-awaited condition when warmth has at last spread so perfectly evenly that there are no warmer pockets and no cooler ones left anywhere, no slopes of heat to flow down, no usable energy gradients to drive a single further change. It is the great cosmic equivalent of a perfectly level pond on a windless dawn, every single drop resting at exactly the same height as every other, the whole wide surface so untroubled that it seems to hold the entire sky upon it like a mirror. In that deep stillness, nothing can flow, because there is simply nowhere left for anything to flow toward. And that is not emptiness, not in any sad or hollow sense. It is balance, the very deepest balance there has ever been. That perfect balance carries one more idea folded inside it, and it is far kinder than it first might sound. In a universe where everything has spread itself out evenly, and no warmth gathers anywhere into any pocket, the kinds of change that build and burn and rush and race would come to cease, simply because change of that restless sort needs a difference somewhere to feed upon, and in perfect, even balance, no difference at all remains. It is far less a sudden stopping than a final settling, the way a music box winds down not into silence with any abrupt snap, but into longer and longer pauses between fainter and fainter notes, until at last the silence between them becomes the truest part of the song. The cosmos does not so much end, in the end, as it finally fully comes to rest. A quiet paradox makes this whole distant future not only bearable but beautiful. The very same law that promises the long calm to come, the rising of entropy, the endless spreading of warmth, is the exact same law that made every single fire worth the watching. Without that one downhill flow, no star could ever shine, no kettle could ever whistle, no thought could ever move across the surface of a living mind. Order spending itself down into disorder is, all at once, both the price and the deep source of everything that has ever glowed. and so the even fade you are drifting toward tonight is not, after all, the enemy of light. It is the very reason that light ever blazed, anywhere at all. You are being warmed, this very moment, by a vast universe caught in the long, patient act of cooling. Nothing whatsoever about this future is sudden. No bell will ever ring to mark the heat-death's arrival. There is no single appointed night on which the great lights all go out together. It is instead a gradual and endless approach, an asymptote, a forever nearing that never once quite lands. The cosmos always sliding a little closer to its perfect calm, yet always with a little further still to go, on and on. And this means that the universe spends an unthinkable, immeasurable eternity not at its ending at all, but on the long, smooth approach toward it. That approach is so even, so utterly without alarm or haste, that simply to picture it is to picture one great breath being let out across the whole of time, far past the very idea of hurry. This whole long exhale reframes the heavy old word death. To call this distant future a death is, in truth, only a small habit of our human language, for nothing about it bleeds, and nothing about it suffers, and nothing whatsoever about it is torn or broken or made to hurt. A far better and truer word for it might simply be sleep, a great universe-wide settling into stillness, a whole cosmos at last laying down its long and luminous work and finally, fully resting. The stars do not die away in any terror. They simply finish their long burning and cool, exactly the way a good fire banks itself down low at the end of a long evening, its embers reddening from yellow to orange to a last deep glow, until only warmth remains in the room. The end of the whole cosmos is the most peaceful sleep there is, and it has been preparing for that sleep without any fear since its very first bright morning. Feel that deep peace becoming your own now, sinking down through you like warmth spreading through still water, and turn your gaze toward the great comfort hidden within the sheer, vast indifference of the scale. The heat-death cares nothing at all for any single small life, and far from being a cold or lonely thought, that simple fact can land as the kindest of releases. Your many worries, your small hurries, your daily aches and the weight you carried home today, set against the scale of a cosmos that will go on glowing for 100 trillion years and then fade for very much longer than that, they all grow so light and so small that they nearly lift away of their own accord and float off into the dark. You are entirely free here to set every one of them down completely. The universe is large enough and patient enough and kind enough in its vast way to hold all of it for you, and to ask in return nothing whatsoever but your rest. The universe first began and will at last end in much the same shape, a roundness to it all that soothes the tired mind. It started 14 billion years ago in a near-perfect smoothness, a hot, even calm with almost no structure to it anywhere, and it will end, in the unthinkable far future, in another near-perfect smoothness too, a cold, even calm, with once again almost no structure to it anywhere. And in between those two great stillnesses lies absolutely everything, every star that ever burned, every spiral that ever turned, every single spark of life that ever flickered, the whole vast and dazzling festival of difference and warmth and colour and light. The cosmos rises up out of stillness, and it returns just as evenly back down into stillness, and all the wonder you have ever known or felt or been is simply the bright, brief, beloved middle of that one long arc, a single sunlit page held between two dark covers. It is a strange tenderness to be one of the very few minds that ever knew this future at all. Across the truly unthinkable reaches of time that the cosmos will spend resting in its stillness, the brief spans in which any creature anywhere can look up and wonder are vanishingly, achingly small, and you, somehow, are living right inside one of them. You're a small fragment of the universe that woke up, just briefly, and turned to look out at its own long and distant horizon. And that looking will not and cannot last forever. and that precisely is the very thing that makes it so impossibly precious. Tonight, lying here in the dark, you're quite simply the cosmos itself, contemplating its own faraway ending and finding to its own lasting surprise that the ending is nothing whatsoever to fear. There is a curious idea from the deep mathematics of all this. A very long time ago, a thoughtful mathematician proved that any closed system, given enough time, must eventually return near to almost any state it once passed through. That, in principle, if you wait long enough, the scattered pieces might one day, by sheer chance, find their way briefly back toward order again. The waiting required is so impossibly long that it dwarfs even the lifetime of the black holes, far beyond any meaning the word time can carry. But the thought remains that even perfect stillness need not be a hard and final wall, that in the deepest mathematics of the cosmos there flickers the faintest possibility of return. The universe keeps even its endings unfinished and leaves, somewhere far off, a door ajar. There is a deep humility woven all through this future, and it lands as comfort rather than as smallness. The heat death reminds you that nothing at all is permanent, not the stars, not the galaxies, not even the great black holes that once seemed so far beyond all ending. And instead of frightening you, this can set you free. For if even the entire cosmos must one day rest, then surely you too may rest now, tonight, without any guilt, and without the nagging sense that something important is being left undone. The very greatest engines in all of existence are winding down at their own pace, in no rush whatsoever, taking forever and finding it more than enough, and you are warmly invited to match their patience, to let the whole day's unfinished business simply wait, exactly as the universe lets its own ending wait, for ages upon ages, without a trace of concern. Feel how very far you have drifted by now from the ordinary noise of the waking world, out among the cooling fires and the deepening dark. In a universe spread perfectly and completely even, there would be no sound at all anywhere, because sound itself needs a difference of pressure in order to travel, a push and a pull moving through some restless and uneven medium. The far future, then, is a place of true and total silence, the most complete it is possible to imagine, a hush so absolute that it has never once, not for a single instant, been matched anywhere on all of Earth. And yet nothing about it is lonely tonight, nothing cold. It is the great silence of a held breath at the very end of a beautiful piece of music, the tender pause that lets the last fading note go on ringing inside you, long after the strings themselves have fallen still. Each step of the cosmic future has stretched the great clock a little further out, a few billion years until the sun's swelling and letting go, 100 trillion years until the very last starlight finally dims, then a google of years for the fading of the black holes, and far beyond even that, the endless smooth approach toward absolute calm. Held against all of this immensity, a single human night is so brief, it is very nearly nothing at all. And yet that precisely is the very reason it is so wholly and completely yours to spend exactly as you wish. You have all the time you could ever need, here in this small, warm, well-lit pocket of the universe's long and luminous morning. Notice how light your whole body feels now, as though some real portion of the day's weight has drifted off and away into the surrounding dark. Even endings are only ever beginnings, glimpsed from the other side. The cooling of a single star scatters the very seeds of new and unborn worlds. The patient spreading of warmth is the deep spending that makes absolutely everything happen. And the far calm of the whole cosmos is not, in the end, a great door slamming shut, but a long and even settling, a vast laying down. The very same simple gesture you yourself make when you finally close your eyes at the close of a long, full day. The universe is, in its grandest and its kindest way, simply going off to sleep, and it has been getting itself ready to, all along, since the very first light it ever knew. The heat death is built from end to end, out of numbers so enormous that they wrap all the way back around again into stillness, To say that the very last black holes may shine on faintly for an age beyond the reach of any clock or calendar is to name a stretch so far past any imagining that the tired mind, rather than straining uselessly to grasp it, simply lets go entirely and floats. These great immensities are not, in truth, meant to be grasped or held at all. They are meant only to be rested against, the very way you might lay your whole weight back against the deep rolling swell of the open sea on a calm night, far too large ever to fight, far too patient ever to fear, wanting only that you finally stop your swimming and simply allow it to hold you up. After the black holes themselves have faded, the cosmos enters its very last and longest chapter, and astronomers, fittingly, call it the Dark Era. There is no light left then, no stars, no great structures, only a thin scatter of stray particles drifting impossibly far apart through an endless cooling dark. And yet nothing in that final age is fearful, only the deepest imaginable peace, the universe at perfect rest, every restless thing at last grown still. This is the chapter the cosmos will spend almost all of eternity within, far longer than every bright and busy age before it combined. The age of stars and life and light is the brief and shining prologue. The long, calm dark is nearly the whole of the book. And it is a kind book, in the end, one whose final and longest page is simply rest. All of this vast and distant future is woven together out of the very simplest possible threads. The whole long fate of the cosmos, the fading stars, the parting galaxies, the deep and cooling dark, follows entirely from just a small handful of plain truths, that warmth always spreads, that fuel always runs out, that space keeps stretching, and that difference, given enough time, always smooths itself away to nothing. There is nothing tangled here anywhere, nothing knotted that needs any great effort of mind to understand. The single grandest story there has ever been rests upon a few plain certainties, as simple as the rules of falling asleep itself. Let go, grow still, settle down, and rest. The universe has known these few rules by heart since the beginning, and tonight, drifting here, so do you. Feel your breathing slowing now toward the rhythm of something very much older than yourself. In the great far calm, no place at all is special, and no single moment ever stands apart from any other, because nothing leans, and nothing rushes, and nothing anywhere pulls the slightest bit harder than anything else. It is the vast cosmic version of one still afternoon, when the warm air does not stir, and the slanting light does not change, and there is simply, blessedly, nowhere at all that any part of you needs to be. And that precisely is the shape of the universe's ending. Not a struggle and not a fall, but the most perfectly even stillness there has ever been, spread out across the whole of all of space. This great calm is not any kind of accident, but a true destination, the very place that all the long roads in physics faithfully lead. Every spreading of heat across the void, every cooling of a distant star, every stretching of space itself points the very same way, toward balance, toward stillness, toward rest. The cosmos is not wandering aimlessly or lost on its way. It is steadily and surely arriving mile by mile at the one single state where nothing more ever needs to happen again. And a journey whose whole end is rest itself is a deeply soothing thing to be on, a long and winding road whose final mile is simply the laying down of all roads forever. You're walking that very same path tonight, lying perfectly still, and its destination is the most restful one there is. In a universe that will spend whole eternities resting in its stillness, the frantic, racing pace of a single ordinary day on a single small world means truly nothing at all, and that is not a sorrow, but a mercy. Every deadline you have ever raced against, every clock whose face you have ever anxiously watched belongs entirely to the bright, brief, busy middle of all cosmic time, and even that whole busy middle is unimaginably patient by any small human measure. There is no rush at all written anywhere into the deep fabric of the cosmos. The universe has never once in all its long life been in any hurry whatsoever, and tonight, drifting here, neither, at last, are you. Feel that complete absence of hurry now as a real and physical weight lifting up and away from your chest. The great stillness lying ahead is not, after all, a strange darkness to be dreaded, but a calm you already know by heart. You have felt it before, many times, in the hush of the moments just before sleep takes you, in the held pause of a windless winter night when the snow muffles all the world, in the silence of a room where someone you love lies sleeping close beside you. That small, familiar, ordinary stillness is itself a tiny, faithful echo of the very great one that the whole cosmos is drifting toward across all of time. The end of the universe is not, then, a strange or fearful or foreign country at all. It is the very same quiet that you sink down into every single night of your life, simply grown, at last, to the full and tender size of everything there is. No one anywhere knows the whole of this story for certain, and that is perfectly all right. The heat death is the calmest and most widely expected of the futures, but it is not the only one the careful minds consider. There are other possibilities, other paths the cosmos might one day take, depending on the deep nature of that unseen dark energy that no one has yet fully read. The open question is itself a kind of freedom. Even the very wisest do not have every answer folded away, and the future of everything is allowed to keep a little of its mystery unresolved. You do not need the ending settled to rest beneath it. You can simply lie here in the not yet known, as easily as a child who does not need to know how the night ends in order to fall asleep within it. Sink a little deeper now into that warm and familiar calm, a little further with each long breath, and turn your attention toward one last wide expanse of wonder before the night itself grows deeper still. The universe did not have to be understandable at all by anyone, and yet somehow it is. A mind exactly like yours, made of nothing more than fading stardust and ordinary water, can hold the entire grand arc of all of cosmic time within a single unhurried thought, here on the very edge of sleep. The cosmos managed to produce, out of its own long unwinding, something tender that could turn back and comprehend the unwinding itself. 3.5 pounds of folded matter that knows how stars die. You are the universe's own way of coming to know its own faraway fate, and tonight you are doing exactly that. From the safest and the warmest place that there is anywhere in all of it, your own still and breathing body, drifting gratefully down toward rest, and how very little this whole distant future actually asks of you. It does not need or want your worry, or your careful planning, or your fear, or your help in any way at all. It will unfold entirely on its own, over spans so vast and so patient that nothing you do, and nothing you fail to do, tonight or ever, could possibly matter to it in the slightest. And that, when you let it land, is a strange and beautiful kind of freedom. To know with certainty that the single grandest story in all of existence is being told faithfully, without the smallest need for your hand in it, and that your one and only task here, in the warm dark, is simply to listen as it grows still, and to grow still yourself right alongside it. The long running down of the cosmos is also by far its very longest lived feature of all. Stars, for all their fire, are brief. Galaxies, for all their immense grandeur, are only a passing chapter in the great book. But the calm, the deep, even stillness toward which absolutely everything is forever flowing, is the one single state that the universe will hold and keep for very nearly all of time itself. In the great accounting of all the cosmic ages, it is not the bright fire that lasts in the end, but the deep stillness that comes after the fire. The universe is, at its very heart, a vast and patient stillness that once, just once, briefly and brilliantly, learned how to glow. And you are a small living spark of that one brief glow, resting now, returning willingly to the very calm from which all of the light first rose, long ago. Feel how thoroughly the long day has now loosened its tired grip on you at last, and rest in the certain truth that nothing of all you carried into this still hour needs ever to be carried back out of it again. The great cosmos sheds its blazing stars without the smallest grief, and you, in just the same way, may let the whole weight of your day fall away. Each breath you let out is its own small release, a tiny and perfect version of the great letting go that the whole wide universe is practicing across all of time. There is no effort at all required in it, and no struggle anywhere within it, only the most natural easing of a thing that has finished its long work and is ready at the very last to rest. Let it. Let yourself. The very atoms within you have already travelled almost the whole of cosmic history to be here, resting tonight. The hydrogen in the water of your body was born in the first 3 minutes after the universe began, nearly 14 billion years ago, and it has been passing from cloud to star to world to living thing ever since, never once destroyed, only borrowed and lent and borrowed again. You are, in part, made of the oldest matter there is, and in the far future, when you and your world are long gone, those same ancient atoms will travel onward still, into the calm. You're a brief and lovely gathering of very ancient things, met together for one short while, and then released to continue on their long way. This vast distant future folds the very largest things and the very smallest together into one single truth. The exact same stillness waits patiently for a single drifting atom, and for a whole turning galaxy alike. The exact same calm reaches out to receive the very faintest red dwarf, and the very mightiest black hole with equal kindness. And the exact same hush that will one day hold the entire cosmos in its arms is, in its own small and present way, holding you too tonight, right now, here in this room. You do not stand apart from this beautiful settling of all things. You're a warm and a breathing part of it, drifting steadily in the very same direction as everything that has ever, anywhere, been. And it is the most natural thing in all the world to drift there, with your eyes closed, and your body grown heavy and warm, and your mind at last growing still. As the stillness deepens now, notice how the old familiar boundary between yourself and the wide cosmos has already begun to blur. The very way the fine line between the sea and the sky goes uncertain at the fading end of a windless day. The atoms in your resting hands were forged, everyone, deep inside ancient stars. The warmth glowing in your chest is borrowed entirely from the same long fire that warms everything there is. And the even rhythm of your own breath echoes the even rhythm of a whole universe easing itself toward rest. There is no real or final edge anywhere between you and the deep night sky above. You are made through and through of the very same fading light. You are held and kept by the very same laws, and you are bound peacefully for the very same patient calm. One more wonder remains to rest upon before the night grows deeper still, and it is perhaps the kindest of them all. Of everything the universe will ever make across the whole of its long life, every star, every galaxy, every black hole and drifting world, the rarest and the most fleeting thing of all is a moment of awareness, a mind awake enough to notice that any of it is happening. Such moments are scattered impossibly thin across the great dark of time, brief sparks in an ocean of stillness, and you are having one of them right now, lying here in the warmth. You are the universe, paused for the length of a single night, aware of itself and of its own far fate. It is a rare and a precious thing, this small flame of noticing, and tonight you may simply let it burn low and warm and easy, and then let it too drift down towards sleep. Drift now toward the deep machinery beneath the cooling stars, for the very same furnaces that warm the worlds are also building the future's stillness. Inside a star, 4 light particles of hydrogen are pressed together at temperatures of 15 million degrees to make one slightly heavier particle of helium, and in that joining a tiny sliver of their substance turns entirely into light. It is the most patient kind of burning, far slower than any flame, a single hydrogen atom waiting on average billions of years for its turn, and it is the source of nearly all the warmth there has ever been. But each fusion leaves a little less fuel and a little more ash, and so every star, simply by shining, edges the cosmos one step nearer its rest. The light that falls on your face from any sun is, in truth, a fragment of that star spending itself away. There is a hidden tenderness in how that spending is measured. Every single second, the sun turns something like 4 million tons of its own substance into pure light, an unthinkable amount by any earthly reckoning, whole mountains of matter vanishing into radiance with each tick of a clock. And yet the sun is so staggeringly enormous, 1/3 of a million times the mass of the Earth, that after more than 4 billion years of this, it has shed less than 1,000th of itself, with more than enough left to shine on for 5 billion years to come. What looks from up close like a furious, ceaseless pouring out is, against the true size of the star, the lightest possible touch. A candle so vast it can burn for an age and scarcely notice the cost. The warmth on your skin at noon is paid for in matter, and the price somehow is one the sun can easily meet. A surprising fact lies in how slowly that great central fire actually burns. Deep in the core of the sun, the warmth pressed out of any small patch of matter is, ounce for ounce, fainter than the heat of a resting human body or a warm corner of compost on a still day. Only a few watts from a volume the size of your own chest. The sun blazes so brightly only because it is so unimaginably vast, gathering up countless faint warmths into one great glow. The mighty light which fills your sky is built not from fury, but from an immense and unhurried gathering of the very faintest heat, the way a whole ocean is built from numberless small drops. Light itself carries a patience tucked inside its famous speed. A ray of warmth born deep in the heart of the sun does not simply fly out into the day. It wanders, bouncing and scattering among the crowded particles of the star, taking many thousands of years to work its way from the core to the surface at last, crossing a distance light could otherwise clear in just over 2 seconds. The sunlight that warms a single afternoon may have begun its long journey when the first cities were being built on Earth. Even light, the swiftest thing there is, knows how to take its time, and so, tonight, may you. Every distant light you see is a small window into the past. Because light takes time to cross the great gulfs of space, to look out at the stars is always to look backward, to see each one not as it is now, but as it was when its light first set out. The glow of a star 1,000 light years away shows you a 1,000-year-old moment, preserved whole across the dark. The whole night sky is a gathering of different yesterdays, all shining at once. The nearest stars a few years old, the farthest 100,000, the dim smudge of Andromeda 2.5 million years gone. There is no rush in such a sky, no demand to keep up with the present. It is a place made entirely of arriving memory, and you may simply lie beneath it and receive. A strange peace lives in an old question that puzzled the early astronomers. If the cosmos were endless and forever full of stars, why is the night sky dark at all? Why is it not ablaze with light in every direction? Part of the answer is that the universe has not been shining forever. The light from the most distant reaches has not yet had time to arrive. And part is that the stretching of space dims and reddens the farthest glow toward invisibility. The darkness between the stars is not empty failure. It is the proof of a universe with a beginning, still young, still arriving. The very dimness of the night is a clue to the cosmos's own age. The largest pattern there is, the vast architecture into which all the galaxies are gathered, is itself a kind of lullaby of scale. The galaxies are not scattered evenly through space. They are strung together in great glowing filaments and sheets, some of them hundreds of millions of light years long, with enormous dark voids between, so that the whole cosmos resembles a web, or the branching of foam, or the threads of a cobweb hung with dew. This is called the cosmic web, the grandest structure known, mapped out by patient surveys that have charted many millions of galaxies into one luminous lattice, and you are nestled within one of its bright strands, on a minor spur near a cluster called Virgo. In the far future, even this great pattern will fade and spread, its threads pulled apart by the swelling of space. but tonight it still holds you, woven into the largest tapestry there is. Those vast dark spaces between the bright threads hold their own deep stillness. The great cosmic voids are regions so empty and so enormous that a beam of light would need many hundreds of millions of years simply to cross one, with almost nothing inside but the faintest whisper of scattered matter, a single atom or two in a space the size of a cathedral. They are the emptiest rooms in all of creation, vast and untroubled. In the deep future, the whole universe will come to resemble these voids, calm and open and serenely empty. You are drifting tonight toward that same spaciousness, the restful emptiness that the cosmos has always kept, waiting in its widest and stillest places. Most of the universe cannot even be seen, and yet it holds everything together. Around and through every galaxy there drifts a vast unseen presence, a kind of matter that gives off no light at all, known only by the steady pull of its gravity. It is called dark matter, and there is roughly 5 times as much of it as all the glowing stars and gas combined. It is the scaffolding upon which the visible cosmos is hung. The greater part of everything is invisible, working without a sound, asking for no notice, simply holding the bright world in place, the way the truest supports in any life are so often the unseen ones. A surprising fact waits in the very emptiness itself, in what we casually call nothing. Empty space is never truly empty. Even the deepest void hums faintly with a restless flicker, a trembling of energy that can never be entirely stilled, particles winking into being and vanishing again too fast to ever quite catch. The laws of nature do not allow perfect, absolute nothing. There is always this faintest of murmurs, this ceaseless shimmer beneath the dark. And it is from this hum that the black holes draw their fading glow. Even in the stillest future imaginable, the universe will never be wholly silent within. There will always remain this tender, almost imperceptible whisper, like the breathing of a sleeper in a darkened room. The far morning of your own sun holds a slow turning. Before it cools into its small white cinder, the sun will first grow old by swelling, expanding into a vast red giant, its surface ballooning outward until it glows enormous and rose-coloured in the sky of whatever remains. It will become so large that it may swallow the innermost worlds entirely and reach out near the orbit of the Earth, its outer edge grown so thin that the gas there is fainter than the best vacuum we can make. And yet this swelling is slow and stately, the unhurried aging of a star easing toward its rest, more a deepening blush than any violence. A great red lantern hung low in the heavens of the far future, dimmer and cooler at its surface than the bright sun you know, settling toward its long quiet. Picture the very last perfect day the Earth will ever know, far in the future yet long before any true ending. As the sun slowly brightens across the ages, about 10% every billion years, there will come a final morning of mild warmth, a last afternoon of blue skies and a turning breeze before the rising heat carries the world beyond it. No one can mark which day it will be. It will pass like any other, unremarkable and serene. The most precious moments so often arrive without announcement, asking only to be lived. Tonight too is such a moment, ordinary and passing and perfect and entirely enough. Rest now on the scale of a single light year, the yardstick by which the cosmos is measured. A light year is simply the distance that light, travelling its swiftest, covers in one whole year, nearly 6 trillion miles, a span so vast that the very nearest star beyond the sun lies more than 4 of them away, a journey of 70,000 years for the fastest ship we have ever flown, and the galaxy is 100,000 of these across. To speak of the cosmos is to speak in distances so wide that even light grows weary crossing them. Numbers this large place every hurried human worry into a merciful perspective, small beneath the patient reach of the stars. A quiet wonder lives in the realization that the night sky you see is only the faintest sliver of all the light there is. Your eyes catch but a narrow band of the radiance streaming through the cosmos, a single octave of colour out of a span that runs from radio waves miles long to gamma rays smaller than an atom. All around you, unseen, flow warmths and glows your sight was never made to gather. The microwave whisper of the ancient dawn, the infrared breath of cooling dust, and more. The universe is far more luminous than any eye can know. You rest tonight bathed in radiances beyond all seeing, held in light you will never need to look at, warmed by a glow you were never even built to notice. There is a deep stillness in how perfectly the early cosmos was balanced. Had the universe been born expanding only the slightest bit faster, it would have flown apart before a single star could form, only the slightest bit slower, and it would have folded back upon itself long ago. The margin was extraordinarily fine, a difference of 1 part in many trillions at the earliest instant we can speak of. Instead, it was poised, exquisitely, upon that narrow edge, expanding at just the rate that allowed the long, calm unfolding of stars and worlds, and still nights like this one. The whole vast cosmos has rested from its very first instant in a poise as delicate and as steady as a held breath. The very poise you're sinking into now. How thinly life and light are scattered through all that immensity. For all its 100 billion stars, our galaxy is mostly silence and space. For all its countless galaxies, the cosmos is overwhelmingly dark and still. The bright and living parts, the stars, the worlds, the wakeful minds, are rare flecks of warmth in an ocean of patient quiet. And rather than lonely, this can feel like a reassurance that stillness is the great and natural state of things, the wide background against which every small light briefly shines. You're not an exception to the universe's calm. You're one of its rare, warm sparks, resting now, returning to the stillness it has always mostly been. Consider the patient slowness with which the great galaxies themselves turn, a stillness hidden inside their motion. Our own Milky Way wheels grandly through space, the sun sweeping along at nearly 500,000 miles an hour, yet the wheel is so enormous that a single turn of its great pinwheel takes about 230 million years. Our sun has circled the galaxy's heart only some 20 times in all its long life, the last full lap begun when dinosaurs still walked the Earth. To us, caught within it, the galaxy seems perfectly motionless, fixed, and eternal. There is deep comfort in motion so slow it feels like rest, in a great wheel turning so smoothly that those it carries feel only stillness. You're riding that quiet carousel even now, and it carries you whether you watch it or not. A marvel waits in the great age of the very oldest stars, the silent elders of the sky. Scattered through the galaxy are ancient suns nearly as old as the universe itself, more than 13 billion years burning, dim stars that were already old when the Earth and Sun first formed, and that will go on burning, faint and faithful, long after the sun has cooled. They have watched the whole long unfolding of cosmic time with the same steady glow. There is something deeply calming in their endurance. These old lights, in no hurry, having seen everything, keeping their long vigil over the turning of the ages, and over you, tonight, as you rest beneath them. The deep cold that already fills the spaces between the worlds is gentler than its name. The temperature of empty space far from any star hovers at about -270 degrees Celsius, just under 3 degrees above the lowest cold there can be, chilled by the ancient afterglow and by nothing else. It is the natural resting temperature of the cosmos at large, the level to which all the warmth eventually returns, and in the far future, every place will drift toward this same chill, evenly, without alarm. The deep cold of space is not a harshness, but a kind of homecoming temperature, the coolness that the universe has always, patiently, been settling toward. The future will slowly simplify the night sky, without loss. As the galaxies beyond our own recede past seeing, the far future sky will hold only the single merged island of nearby stars, and beyond it, smooth dark. the astronomers of that distant age, if any are there to look, will see a cosmos that appears small and calm and self-contained. The great wide complexity of today pared down to a simpler, stiller view, with no other galaxy anywhere in reach of their telescopes, only their own merged island of stars, and then smooth dark to every horizon, like a room cleared and made ready for sleep. The cosmos keeps no centre and no edge. It looks the same from everywhere. Wherever you might stand within it, the universe would show much the same view in every direction, the same scatter of galaxies, the same patient expansion, the same far quiet. There is no special place, no central throne, no privileged corner. The great evenness of the cosmos is woven in from the start. You are nowhere in particular, and therefore exactly at home. Every place is the middle, and so no place is the edge, and the same calm surrounds all things equally, including you, here, now. The universe is the only thing that needs no outside to rest within. Everything you know rests within something larger, a room within a house within a world within its sky. But the cosmos rests within nothing at all. It is not floating in any greater space, for it is itself the whole of space, carrying its own room with it as it grows. A thing so entire requires no ground beneath it, no walls around it, no outside to hold it up. It simply is and is enough, resting within and upon itself. And tonight you are held within that one complete and self-sufficient calm, which needs nothing and lacks nothing, and lets you lack nothing either. The far future grows not only colder but slower, in every sense. As the cosmos cools and spreads, the pace of all happening eases, reactions grow rarer, changes grow fainter, the very tempo of events stretches longer and longer apart. What takes an instant now might take an age then. What takes an age might take forever. Time itself does not stop, but its events thin out like footsteps growing more and more distant, until between one happening and the next lie unimaginable gulfs of stillness. It is the universe slowing its own pulse, easing from the quick bright rhythm of its youth toward the long deep breathing of its rest. The very slowing you can feel within yourself right now. The heat death asks nothing to be feared and offers everything to be marvelled at. It is not a catastrophe stalking toward us, not a danger to be guarded against. It is simply the far shape of how things go, glimpsed by careful minds and held with awe. To learn of it is not to be frightened but to be widened, to feel the small walls of an ordinary day fall away and the vast calm of deep time flow in. And that widening is itself a kind of rest, the loosening of every tight and hurried thing, the opening out of a mind no longer pressed against the narrow edges of the moment. You carry the whole of cosmic history within your own resting body. The hydrogen in you was forged in the universe's first 3 minutes. The carbon and oxygen and iron in you were cooked in the hearts of stars and scattered by their deaths. The energy moving through you arrived as sunlight only days ago. Past and present, the ancient and the recent are all gathered together in the warm, small space of you, resting here. You are not separate from the long story of the cosmos. You are a place where its whole history briefly meets, a confluence of the very old and the very new, and in a little while you will let it all flow onward again as you slip down into sleep. On the scale of the universe, every ending is also a making of room. As the old stars fade, the space they filled grows open and clear, ready and uncrowded. As structures dissolve, the cosmos grows more spacious, more serene, less pressed. The far future is not a closing in but an opening out, a vast clearing of space, room upon room of patient quiet. There is comfort in imagining an ending that is really a kind of spaciousness, a great unhurried clearing, an emptying that feels not like loss but like the deep, calm room you make in yourself each night for rest. The cosmos turns even its great extremes towards stillness in the end. The hottest fires of the stars cool into embers, The densest hearts of collapsed suns settle into smooth, even spheres. The fiercest pull of the black holes fades into the faintest glow and then to nothing. Every violence the universe knows is temporary. Every extreme is on its long way back toward the calm. Nothing harsh endures. All the sharp and burning things are eased sooner or later into peace. The whole long tendency of the cosmos is to soothe its own extremes, to settle everything fierce toward rest, exactly as the day's sharp edges are softening now in you. The universe needed no purpose to become beautiful. It did not set out to make stars or worlds or watching minds or still nights. It simply followed its few plain laws, spreading and cooling and settling, and out of that patient unfolding came all the loveliness there is. The beauty was not planned, it arose freely along the way. Wonder needs no reason to exist, and the most beautiful things often come unbidden as gifts of the simple unfolding of things. You too are such a gift, arrived without needing a reason, lovely without needing a purpose, here simply because the cosmos, in its long way, unfolded toward you. Rest now on the kindest paradox of all, that to understand the ending of everything brings, not dread, but peace. One might expect the thought of a cosmos winding down to be heavy and sorrowful, and yet, held in the hand, it lifts the heart instead, dissolving the small anxieties of the day in the vast and patient calm of deep time. For if even the stars may rest, then surely you may. If even the universe is in no hurry, then surely nothing tonight is truly urgent. The far calm of all things reaches back across the ages to touch this single ordinary night, and to whisper without words that you are safe and that you may let go. The very same stillness toward which the cosmos drifts is the stillness that heals you each night. Sleep is your own small heat death, your nightly settling, the daily loosening of every held and hurried thing into deep and restoring rest. Each night you practice in miniature the great rest the universe is slowly making for itself. And so the far ending of all things is not strange to you at all. It is your oldest and most familiar friend, the same sweet calm you sink into between every day and the next. Tonight you simply join the cosmos in what you both already know how to do, to grow still, to let go, and to rest. The cold white embers of dead stars will one day darken entirely, and it is among the softest of fadings. A white dwarf glows on its saved heat alone, with no fire left to feed it, and so across spans far longer than the universe has yet lived, perhaps 1,000 trillion years. It slowly cools, its light reddening and dimming, until at last it gives off no glow at all. Then it becomes what astronomers call a black dwarf, a cold, dark, silent sphere about the size of the Earth, drifting unseen through an empty sky. None exist yet. The cosmos is far too young by a factor of many thousands to have made even one. They belong wholly to the future, these cinders, and they will be among the last cold keepsakes of the long age of stars. Nothing in the universe is ever truly lost, only carried elsewhere. The energy that lit the first stars has not vanished. It is spread now through the cold of space, woven into the faint warmth of the dark, present still though scattered beyond all gathering. Not one bit of it was ever destroyed. The great sum of energy is exactly the same now as in the first instant. The running down is not a leaking away of anything, but a sharing out of all of it. The same warmth simply handed onward and onward until it rests evenly everywhere. Endings here take nothing away. All that ever was remains, only spread, only laid down across the whole of the calm. Consider how rare the bright moments are within a single star's long life. A star may spend 10 billion years in the steady glow of its prime, and only a few 100,000 in its more dramatic ending, so that even a dying sun spends better than 99 parts in 100 of its existence at peace. The fierce moments are the exception. The long quiet burning is the rule, and this is true, it seems, of nearly everything the cosmos makes. Vast stretches of stillness, threaded with the rarest sparks of change. You live among those rare sparks now, but you are made for the stillness too, and tonight you are returning to it, as all things do. The universe wrote its own simplest ingredients in its very first minutes, and they were enough. In those opening moments, before any star existed, the cosmos forged the lightest elements, about 3 parts hydrogen to 1 of helium, with the faintest trace of lithium, out of pure energy in a window that opened and closed within the first 20 minutes, and from these few plain materials everything else was eventually built. The grand and varied world you know was assembled over billions of years from the simplest possible beginnings. Complexity need not begin complex. The richest things grow from the plainest starts, the way a vast and dreaming sleep begins with nothing more than a single slowing breath. The expansion of space stretches the very colour of distant light without any harm. As a galaxy's glow travels across the widening cosmos, its light is drawn out toward the red end of colour, its waves lengthened by the stretching of space itself, so that the farthest galaxies glow in deep reds. The more distant the light, the more it is reddened, until far enough away, the light that left as visible blue arrives stretched all the way into invisible infrared, too long for any eye. The whole far cosmos is reddening, like a sky easing toward evening, and there is rest in that slow and universal turning warm of the light. The future of the universe was, in a sense, already settled in its very first instant. The smoothness of the newborn cosmos, the few simple laws it followed, the fine balance of its expansion, all of these, present from the very start, set the long course toward the calm. The ending was written into the beginning, not as fate to be dreaded, but as the natural and patient unfolding of a thing being simply what it is. There is peace in that continuity, that the cosmos has never lurched or swerved, but has only ever been becoming itself all along, one unbroken motion from first light to final stillness. The universe is, even now, mostly past. The bright peak of star birth came about 10 billion years ago. The cosmos has already made something like 90% of all the stars it will ever make. In a sense, the most luminous chapter is behind us, and we live in the long afternoon of star-making, the light easing toward its long evening. And rather than sad, this can feel deeply peaceful, like the calm of a day whose busiest hours have passed, settling now toward the golden, slanting light of late afternoon, when the work is mostly done and there is nothing left but to rest in the warmth. There is a measure of how empty the future grows. Today, if you could gather up all the matter in the cosmos and spread it perfectly evenly, you would find only about 5 atoms in a space the size of a small room. The universe is already astonishingly thin, and as it expands, this thinness only deepens, until in the far future those few atoms drift across distances larger than entire galaxies are now. A single proton might then have, for its nearest neighbour, another proton a whole galaxy's width away across the dark, an emptiness so complete that the very idea of crowding dissolves, leaving only open room, stretching in every direction, with nothing anywhere that needs to be near anything else. The heat death is the same fate for the grandest and the humblest things alike. The mightiest galaxy and the smallest drifting atom, the brightest star and the faintest cinder, the densest black hole and the thinnest wisp of gas, all of them travel the same road toward the same even calm. The cosmos plays no favourites in its long settling. It gathers everything equally and kindly into one shared rest. The black hole 1 billion times the sun's mass, and the lone atom adrift between the galaxies arrive, in the end, at exactly the same even temperature. The same ending holding all things in the same warm arms, including you. Consider the slowness of how galaxies will one day run out of the cold gas from which new stars are born. The bright young stars form from great clouds of gas drawn together by gravity, but each generation locks away a little more of that gas in cinders and embers that never give it back. So the wells of star-making slowly empty, galaxy by galaxy, until the last new star in each one finally kindles and no more will ever follow. It is not a sudden drought, but a long using up, the spending of a store saved over billions of years, and the universe meets it as it meets everything without alarm, simply letting the last bright clouds collapse into their final lights. Even in the deepest future, the laws of nature remain perfectly intact and unbroken. Nothing snaps, nothing fails, no rule is violated to bring the great calm about. The same patient principles that warm a star or cool a cup of tea carry the cosmos faithfully all the way to its rest, never wavering, never harsh. There is deep reassurance in a universe so lawful and so steady, where the ending arrives not through any breakdown, but through the calm and unbroken keeping of the very same order that has held all along. The cosmos rests by obeying itself to the very last. The future erases all difference, leaving only a perfect and peaceful sameness. In the deep calm, there is no here that differs from there, no now that differs from then, no warm that differs from cold, only one even, uniform stillness, the same in every place and every moment. All the contrasts that make the present so vivid will dissolve into a single seamless hush. And while that might sound like loss, it can feel instead like the deepest rest, the smoothing away of every edge and every distinction, the sameness of a mind in dreamless sleep, where nothing stands apart and all is one whole. The cosmos has always been more darkness than light, and that is exactly as it should be. Even in this bright age, the dark spaces between the stars and the galaxies vastly outnumber the lit ones. The night is, and always has been, the greater part of the sky. The far future simply lets the darkness become the whole, returning the cosmos to the dim background it has mostly always been. There is comfort in befriending that darkness, in knowing it is not an enemy but the oldest and most spacious presence there is, the dark that cradles every light, the same dark that is cradling you now. You are made of the rarest stuff the universe produces. The ordinary matter of stars and worlds and bodies, the atoms you're built from, makes up only about 1 part in 20 of all there is, far outweighed by the unseen dark matter and the mysterious dark energy. The glowing, tangible world is a thin and precious rind upon a vast cosmos, and so to be made of atoms at all, to be solid and warm and real, is to be woven from the cosmos's rarest and most delicate thread. You're something uncommon and lovely, resting here, a small, bright knot of the universe's most precious and fleeting kind of substance. The future holds no clocks, because there is nothing left to measure time against. A clock needs change to tick, a swinging pendulum, a falling grain, a turning gear. But in the perfect calm, where nothing changes anywhere, time loses its meter and its markers. One moment becomes indistinguishable from the next, and the very idea of duration dissolves into stillness. It is not that time ends exactly, but that it grows uncounted, an endless, even present with no before and no after to divide it. And there is profound rest in a time without clocks, the timeless feeling of deep sleep, where hours pass like a single breath, and nothing presses you onward. The universe spends its whole existence simply becoming more itself, more even, more calm. It does not strive, or struggle, or reach for anything beyond. It only follows its own nature, settling ever more deeply into the balance it was always tending toward. There is no anxiety in the cosmos, no effort, no fear of falling short, only the serene unfolding of a thing being exactly what it is. You may take that as permission to stop striving for tonight, to cease all reaching, and simply be what you are, a resting creature, easing into your own nature, which is, in the end, to sleep. The end of the universe is so far away that it is for you, effectively a kind of forever. The stars will shine for 100 trillion years. The cosmos will not approach its deepest calm for spans beyond all counting. Against a single human life, against this single night, the ending is so unimaginably distant that it might as well be eternal, a horizon that recedes forever, never to be reached in any time that could ever touch you. The great stillness is real and true, and yet so far away that it casts no shadow at all upon your rest, only the faintest and most distant light. Rest on one last wide wonder before the night grows deepest of all, that you have held the entire life of the universe, its fiery birth, its long bright day, its slow evening, its final perfect calm, within the small space of a single drifting mind. The whole of cosmic time, billions of years behind and unimaginable ages ahead, has passed through your thoughts tonight like a slow and lovely river, and asks nothing of you but to wonder. A single sleepy mind, no wider than 2 hands, has cradled all of time tonight, and now you may set it down, the whole great story, and let it rest beside you as you too drift down into the calm. The cosmos hides its grandest changes inside the smoothest of motions. The galaxies fly apart at tremendous speeds, yet from within, all seems perfectly serene. The stars race through space at tens of miles a second, yet the night sky appears to hold its shape for thousands of years. The very largest motions in existence are so vast and so smooth that they feel, from the inside, like complete stillness. You can be carried swiftly and yet feel utterly at rest. Great movement and deep calm are not opposites at all, but can be the very same thing, exactly as you're carried now swiftly through space and feel only quiet. The universe will spend almost all of its existence in the dark, and the dark is where it is most at peace. The bright age of stars, for all its glory, is the briefest of openings. The long, calm, lightless future is very nearly the whole of time. If you could see the life of the cosmos laid out end to end, the light would be the thin and shining edge, and the dark would be all the rest. The universe is in truth a creature of the deep dark, only briefly visited by light, and there is deep ease in befriending the darkness that is its true and lasting home, and yours. Everything the universe will ever do, it does without the slightest hurry. The stars take billions of years to burn, the galaxies take ages to drift apart, the black holes take spans beyond counting to fade. Nowhere in all of the cosmos is there any rushing, any urgency, any pressing need for haste. The universe has perfected the art of taking its time, of letting each thing unfold at exactly its own pace. You may learn from its patience tonight, may let every tight and hurried thing within you loosen and slow, until you too are moving at the timeless tempo of the stars. Nothing the universe makes is wasted, even as it fades. The light of the dying stars warms the cold of space. The matter of the old worlds drifts on to wander freely. The energy of every ending flows onward into the calm. Nothing is thrown away. Everything is passed along, handed from one form to the next in an unbroken chain. There is reassurance in that economy of grace, that all that ever was continues in some altered form, that the cosmos keeps faith with everything it has ever held, losing nothing, only changing it, only laying it down with care. Against the vast calm of the far future, every fear you have ever carried grows weightless. The anxieties of a day, the worries of a year, even the cares of a whole life, measured against 100 trillion years of starlight and the endless stillness beyond, shrink into something almost too small to find. The universe is so unhurried, so spacious, so unbothered, that it dissolves all urgency simply by being what it is. And you may let it dissolve yours now, here in the warm dark. May let the great calm of deep time reach into this single night and smooth away everything that does not need to be held. The cosmos asks nothing of you but to rest within it. It does not need you to understand it or to fear for it, or to carry any part of its great weight. It simply holds you, as it holds all things, in its patient and unending calm, and offers you freely a small share of its deep peace. You're not a watcher standing apart from the universe tonight. You are a part of it, cradled within it, made of it, returning to it. There is nothing left for you to do now but to accept that cradling and to let the great calm carry you the rest of the way down into sleep. drift toward one more wonder, the fact that the cosmos measures its own age by its slow cooling, the way a hearth tells the hour by its embers. The universe was unimaginably hot at its birth, billions of degrees in the first seconds, and has been cooling ever since, so that its temperature is a kind of record of how far it has travelled through time. Long ago it glowed, now it merely warms the dark faintly to under 3 degrees above absolute zero. Far ahead it will barely warm it at all. To know the chill of the cosmos is to know the hour of the night it has reached, and tonight, in this present age, the great hearth of everything is still faintly warm, the long evening only just begun, with ages upon ages of calm still to come. The universe keeps no record of haste, only of patience. Nothing in all its long history has ever been rushed or forced, every star formed in its own time, every galaxy gathered at its own pace, every age unfolded exactly as long as it needed and not a moment less. The cosmos has never once hurried, in 14 billion years, and it never will. There is deep permission in that, to know that you are made by a universe that does not rush, that you carry its unhurried nature in your very atoms, and that to slow down tonight, take all the time you need, is simply to remember what you have always, deeply, been. Let the very last fact settle over you like a blanket of new snow, that of all the things the universe will ever do, the kindest and the simplest is to rest. After all the fire and the forming, all the spinning and the shining, the cosmos asks for nothing more than to grow still and to lie quiet, and in that it is exactly like you, here, now, at the close of your day. The greatest story in existence ends not with a flourish, but with a sigh, not with a shout, but with a settling, the same settling that is happening in you with every slowing breath. The universe and you are doing the very same thing tonight, in the very same way, and there is nowhere either of you needs to be but here, sinking toward the calm. The same laws which guide the fading of the stars are guiding the softening of your own breath right now. The slowing of your heart, the loosening of your shoulders, the settling of your thoughts. These follow the very same patient direction as the cooling of every distant sun, the same drift towards stillness that moves through all of space. You're not watching the universe wind down from the outside. You're winding down along with it, in perfect time, a small living echo of the great calm. And there is the deepest peace in that harmony, to know that your own rest tonight is woven seamlessly into the rest of all things, one motion shared by the smallest breath and the widest cosmos alike. And so, drifting here now at the far and gentle edge of all of time, you can let the very last of the long day dissolve away completely, exactly the way the early universe's blazing fog once dissolved, all at once, into clear and open and endless light. There is nothing left now to understand, and nothing left to hold, and nothing whatsoever left to do. The stars are quietly settling. The galaxies are parting from one another in slow and graceful and perfect silence. The great dark is growing smooth and even and deeply kind, and there, held in the very midst of all that vast and untroubled quiet, you are resting, warm and weightless and perfectly completely safe, a small and a beloved spark of the living cosmos, drifting softly and surely homeward toward the calm. So let the final wonder of this long and lovely night arrive as gently as the cosmos itself arrives at its own faraway ending, slow and soft and entirely without any edge or any sound. Picture, if you will, the universe at the very farthest reach of all time, unthinkably long after the last star has cooled to dark and the last black hole has breathed its final faint warmth out into the waiting dark. There is no fire anywhere now, no light, no difference of any kind in any direction, only a vast and smooth and perfectly evenly spread calm, stretching on and on forever, without any border and without any end. And there, resting within that great and final calm, something quietly and deeply remarkable remains true. The universe has not in any way vanished. It is all of it still there. Every single particle, every last faint trace of energy, every bit of everything that ever was, simply spread now so impossibly wide and so perfectly even that nothing moves anywhere, and nothing changes and nothing leans. The cosmos has not been lost, and it was never going to be. It has only, at the very long last, come perfectly and gently to its rest. Nothing at all was ever truly destroyed across all of those countless ages. The warmth was only shared, and shared again, and shared once more on and on, until every part of everything that exists had received its own equal and peaceful portion of the deep quiet. The whole great festival of stars and storms and turning worlds and living, breathing things was simply the universe spending its first deep stillness outward into light. And now, in the patient fullness of all time, that very light has spread itself slowly back again into stillness once more, gently, completely, and so very kindly. And this is the final and the truest secret that the heat death has been quietly keeping all along. That the end of absolutely everything is not a wound and not a loss, but a homecoming, not a fall into any cold or fearful darkness, but a slow and welcome settling down into peace. The universe was born long ago out of a deep and perfect calm, and it is to that very same calm that it now, at last, returns. And every last bit of the brightness in between, every sun that ever rose, every world that ever turned, every single breath ever drawn by anyone beneath any star in any sky, was the long, luminous, beautiful dream that the cosmos dreamed quietly to itself, on its slow and patient way from one great stillness to the next. And you are a part of that very dream, resting now in its softest and its quietest hour, and there is truly nowhere at all that you need to be but here, and nothing at all that you need to do but breathe, and let the great and gentle calm reach out and hold you, exactly as it holds, and has always held, all things. The long journey through all of these quiet wonders is complete now, every one of them gathered in and softly settled, with nothing more anywhere left to seek. And if you happen to still be here, drifting gently in the warm dark, another quiet journey is already waiting nearby for you, there on the screen, ready and patient for whenever you might softly wish it, or for never at all, for there is no hurry in it anywhere, and no need, and no asking. For now there is only this, and this is more than enough, the warm dark all around you, and the slow, even tide of your breath, and the gentle, welcome weight of a body that is finally, fully ready for its rest. You do not need to remember any of it now, not a single number, not one faraway name, not one distant and lovely fact. Let all of it simply spread itself out evenly and softly inside you, the very way that warmth spreads through a quiet and cooling cosmos, until there is no edge anywhere left for you to hold, and nothing at all left for you to grasp or to carry. Everything you wondered at tonight will keep itself, gently and well. It has already folded itself down small and soft and quiet, somewhere deep and dark and entirely safe within you, and it will rest there now just as peacefully as you yourself are about to. Let your breathing slow a little more. Let your thoughts grow long and slow and far apart from one another, like the very last faint stars scattered across an emptying evening sky. There is nothing left now to finish. There is nowhere at all left to go. The whole vast and patient universe is in no hurry whatsoever, anywhere, tonight, and neither now are you. Feel the deep and welcome heaviness settling into your arms and into your legs and into the slow and even rise and fall of your chest. Feel how the dark gathered all around you is gentle and kind and warm and safe. The stars are settling one by one. The galaxies are drifting apart in perfect and unbroken silence. And you are drifting too now, gently and slowly and surely, downward and inward, into a calm as deep and as patient and as boundless as the cosmos itself. Let go now. Let the very last thought of the day fade softly away, like the oldest and the faintest light. There is only the quiet now, and the warmth, and the slow, even, endless peace of absolutely everything coming gently, at long last, to its rest. The cosmos is at peace, the long night is complete, and now 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now, good night.